Here we're going to look at polynomial long division. So what makes this where I can't just divide it in like normal? Notice this is two terms, so even though it's technically saying all of these things are divided by x plus 5, I can't get two terms to just go into a single one. So writing each thing divided by x plus 5 wouldn't help me. So I can write it out like long division the same way I would if it was just some numbers I was trying to divide. And then the good news is all the steps are also the same. I like a little acronym to try to remember the steps here. Heard this when I was tutoring once. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? It's really silly, but sometimes the silly stuff's like the hardest to forget about. And so if we're thinking about what does that stand for, divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down are the steps to long division. All right, so since we can't get two terms to go into one term, when you do your divide step, you're really only looking at this first one. You're asking how many times does x go into 4x squared? Now, when they're just numbers, how many times does something go into is probably an easier concept. So instead of thinking, what's this divided by this, the same thing would be to say, what do you have to multiply x by to get 4x squared? That's usually easier to ask yourself than how many times does it go into that. So it looks like if I did 4x times x, I would get 4x squared. And so my next step is multiply. Now I get to multiply by the whole thing. So 4x times x is 4x squared. And 4x times 5 is 20. 20x. And then this is the step I see the most mistakes on. Subtract. Not the subtraction itself, but the fact that you're subtracting this whole thing that you just created out of multiplication. So to remind myself, I like to just distribute the negative to both of them straight away. That negative usually gets forgotten about. So when I say subtract, I just put the negative on everything. That way I can't forget to distribute it because I just did it right away. All right, so 4x squared minus 4x squared is 0. That cancels, right? 26x minus 20x is 6x. And so check to make sure this canceled. It did, otherwise you put the wrong thing up here. And then now we're to bring down. And so we can bring down the plus 25. And then you start back at the beginning. Divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down again. So divide, how many times does x go into 6x? So 6 times, or what do I have to multiply to get this? And so now I'm on multiply. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 5 is 30. And so now I'm on to subtract. I'm subtracting the whole thing. So this is negative, that becomes negative. So 6x minus 6x cancels. 25 minus 30 is negative 5. All right, what does that tell me about negative 5 once I don't have anything else to bring down? Is that that's the remainder. And so here's our quotient. Answer. And here's the remainder.